Melbourne town where the suits all grind, there's a lawyer with a vision, one of a kind. He's the Aussie Overlaw'd, he'll fight for your rights, and he's got his own channel shining bright. From the courtroom to the web, he's got it all, sharing legal knowledge, answering the call. He breaks it down in a language we all understand. The Aussie Overlaw'd taking a stand. With his Aussie charm and his legal know-how, he's the hero we need, showing us how. He fights for justice, no case too tough. The Aussie Overlaw'd, he's more than enough. He's more than enough. In Melbourne town where the suits all grind, there's a lawyer with a vision, one of a kind. He's the Aussie Overlaw'd, he'll fight for your rights, and he's got his own channel shining bright. From the courtroom to the web, he's got it all, sharing legal knowledge, answering the call. He breaks it down in a language we all understand. The Aussie Overlaw'd take.
And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to today's episode of To Be Advised, our continuing deep dive into the death of Juston Root. On February 7, 2020, Juston was experiencing some sort of traumatic experience outside of a hospital, and as a result, security guards decided it'd be a good idea to call police. Two arrived on scene, had an altercation with him, and began firing. A valet was shot in the head. Juston was injured. He hopped in his car, drove for a few minutes, wound up on the side of the road up an embankment where police eventually cornered him and fired 31 bullets into his body. He was pronounced dead at the scene. I think it was at the scene. Damn it. And we're going to keep looking into this, people, because the deeper I dive into this with the multitude of information that's been provided to me, exhibits, court filings, interviews, it's looking shadier and shadier. What we're going to do tonight is look at the police side of things. We're going to be looking at Morrissey's report. We're going to look at the police officer's final report into the shooting. And then we're going to have a look at Figueroa's body cam footage. She was the one officer that had been assigned body cam footage that actually had it turned on. Now, there's allegations that one of the other officers actually had body-worn camera footage on at the time, and that the DA has refused to release it. It's very clear from photos that he was wearing a camera at the time. If he had it turned off, misconduct in my opinion. But what could be worse is he had it turned on at the time and they're refusing to release it. So, beyond that, we also have the audio of the interview with the EMT who was at Juston's side on the day that he was shot. You'll have to forgive me if I stumble over my words. It was a very late night last night, and I'm trying not to stuff this up. So, in any case, let's move forward, shall we? Are you taking the time to help and inform everyone? More than happy to in this one, honestly. Okay, so we're going to start off with Morrissey's report. Wow, thank you to everyone that has subbed. Appreciate that. So, from the office of Michael W. Morrissey, this letter addresses my review, findings, and conclusions regarding the events on February 7, 2020, culminating in the fatal shooting of Mr. Juston Root in the vicinity of the intersection of Route 9 and Hammond Street in the town of Brookline, Norfolk County. The review was undertaken in keeping with Massachusetts Guidelines, Chapter 38, Section 4. Each of the 6 officers involved in the shooting gave a voluntary recorded statement. A list of documents, reports, statements, audio, and video recordings reviewed is attached at Appendix A. Appendix B exhibits mentioned throughout. Now, according to Morrissey, and keep in mind, this is obviously, aka the Cat Lady, thank you for a new membership. This is obviously the DA and, shall we say, the police doing what they can to cover their own backsides, in my honest opinion. Hang on, I just realized my audio seems to be down, and I don't really want to have to be dealing with that over and over again, so just give me 1 second. Still doing that thing where it keeps dropping the mic level. Okay, that's a bit better. All right. On February 7, 2020, shortly after 9 a.m., Boston police officer Michael St. Peter was positioned in his marked cruiser in the area of Brigham and Women's Hospital parking garage when a member of the security approached him. The security officer relayed that a male had just flashed a gun at him when he asked the man to move his car. The security officer, when later interviewed, stated that when he asked Root to move his car, Root answered by opening his coat, displaying what the security officer took to be a gun. Whether true or false on that, I mean, look, maybe the security guard felt the need. I mean, clearly he went and spoke to a police officer. Security officer relayed that a male had flashed a gun. At the same time, Boston Police Dispatch broadcasted instructions to officers operating in the vicinity to respond to the hospital campus for a man with a gun. Officer David Godden and Officer Michael St. Peter responded. Officer Godden arrived at the intersection of Fenwood Road and Vining Street, initially looking for a black Chevrolet Volt. The video evidence collected by Brigham and Women's Hospital shows an armed Root chasing BWH security officers. Does it, though? Does it? Root can be seen in an attempt to misdirect officers Godden and St. Peter in their vehicles when they arrived on the scene. Officer Godden circled the hospital building and came back upon Root's silver Chevrolet Volt, stopped in a travel lane on Fenwood Road with the door ajar. He stopped, exited his cruiser, and approached the corner of Fenwood Road and Vining Street on foot. As Godwin approached the corner of Fenwood and Vining Street on foot, he immediately encountered Root, whom he still did not have a reason to know was a subject of the call. Root was moving towards him, yelling, "I'm law enforcement, I'm law enforcement." As Root came within a few feet of Officer Godden, Root reached into his waistband and pulled what appeared to be a handgun out and aimed it at Officer Godden. Now, we're going to go back over the video footage of that very briefly, because admittedly, the footage that was taken, obviously, as is always the case, is significantly longer than what was portrayed in the media. There's a whole 3 minutes when they cut it down to about 25 seconds. Now, I do have some concerns over the footage, because it does appear, as Juston's moving towards the officer, that he places his hand on the butt of the weapon. Even so, that is not as what is described here in Morrissey's report. Because he did not reach into his waistband and pull the weapon until after Godwin had already retrieved his own firearm, pointed it, and had some issues. Imagine both officers could not see each other. They're literally within 20 feet of each other with flashing lights. How did St. Peter not know that he was shooting 10 bullets at an officer? I got questions. That is fair. But as we will soon recap, it's not as if the officers in Boston have any sort of an issue putting other officers in danger, because they're more than happy to enter into crossfire situations. I was intrigued when I was going through the photos of the crime scene, when I found that there were bullet holes in police cruisers. Juston wasn't armed with anything more dangerous than a paintball gun and a pellet gun. Show me exactly how he caused a 9mm bullet hole in the hood of a car. All right. Officer Godden gave instructions to drop the gun, raised his own weapon, and began to retreat, and fell ass over head. Officer Godden fired his weapon and fell backwards onto the sidewalk. Root began to struggle with Officer Godden on the ground. Really? That's not what the footage shows. Lying through your teeth again, Morrissey? Before he exited his vehicle, Officer St. Peter's view of the scene was initially blocked by a large Coca-Cola delivery truck, which is fair, that had stopped near the corner of Fenwood and Vining. As he moved towards the corner, he observed two men struggling on the ground, then one man holding what appeared to be a handgun, standing over the other and pointing the handgun at the person on the ground. Officer St. Peter had heard shots fired and presumed the standing party was shooting at the man on the ground. Officer St. Peter did not yet know that the person on the ground was another Boston police officer. Officer St. Peter fired his weapon at Root. The Boston Police Ballistics Review indicated that 15 shell casings were found at the scene. Root can be seen on video limping back to his Chevrolet Volt following that confrontation, corroborating the officer's beliefs that the bullets they fired struck Root. An adult male working as a parking valet in the area of the hospital was struck by a bullet during the incident. Yeah, struck by a bullet fired by one of the officers. Root successfully entered his vehicle and began travelling towards Huntington Avenue on Route 9, eventually entering that roadway and proceeding westbound on Route 9 towards Brookline. Officers Godden and... why do I keep calling him Godwin? Godden and St. Peter got back in their cruisers and began pursuit. Officer Godden updated police dispatch concerning the altercation, and BPD dispatch put out a code 303, which informed all area law enforcement that an officer-involved shots fired incident. These events are subject to the investigation of Suffolk District Attorney Rachel Rawlins. Where was that? Yeah, so the valet getting shot was still subject to investigation. Google.com's mapping function estimates the distance between the point of departure to the place where the Volt crashed to be approximately 3.2 miles. Two men wrestling as if it's a WWE report sounds like fiction. That was Godden holding it over Juston on the ground. Subsequent transmissions from the Boston Police Department dispatch informed officers that an individual had been shot in the area of the hospital and that the campus was in full lockdown. Reports from witnesses were being given to security personnel and the police at the hospital and were conveyed to the Boston Police Communications Center regarding an armed assailant on the hospital campus. A number of the early calls and reports provided to police indicated that the assailant had shot the valet. Additional police units joined. How do you shoot someone in the head when all you have is a BB gun and a paintball gun? That didn't need to be included in there, Morrissey. You're doing that purely to try and make the cops look better. And you know it. Additional police joined the pursuit as it progressed. Near the beginning of the pursuit, a BPD cruiser struck the suspect's vehicle in an unsuccessful attempt to disable or stop it. Interesting how you're happy to add extra extraneous material there, but don't mention that this is against the department policy to engage in pit maneuvers. As the chase continued, the Volt began to accelerate and weave through traffic, causing pursuing officers to lose sight of the vehicle near the intersection of Route 9 and Chestnut Hill Avenue. Having lost visual contact, several officers, Officer Godden among them, kept going west on Route 9, whilst Officer St. Peter, amongst others, detoured down side streets, which might have provided another route of escape for the fleeing suspect. The speed at which Root's vehicle was travelling accelerated considerably from Boston to Brookline, travelling at speeds in excess of 70 to 80 miles per hour. The Volt struck multiple vehicles at the signalised intersection of Route 9 and Hammond Street, within sight of a Star supermarket and attached parking lot. The event is captured on Brookline traffic camera. The event data recorder black box from the Volt was downloaded and revealed that the Volt had been travelling at 90 miles per hour 3 seconds before the crash. Officers came upon a chaotic scene with multiple heavily damaged vehicles and pieces of vehicles strewn about the roadway. Massachusetts State Police Trooper Paul Keneally had been patrolling west of that location and proceeded eastbound on Route 9 with the intention of deploying so-called stop sticks in the path of the fleeing vehicle at the end of the chase. Trooper Keneally travelled through the intersection of Hammond Street and Route 9 eastbound when he saw a streaking vehicle to his left headed westbound towards the intersection. He realised it was a suspect's vehicle. Trooper Keneally made a U-turn and headed westbound on Route 9 and came upon the scene of the collision at the intersection. The initial officers on the scene involved in the shooting were Boston police officers David Godden, Brenda Figueroa, Corey Thomas, Joseph McMenemy, Leroy Fernandez, and Massachusetts State Police Trooper Paul Keneally. All officers were dressed in full uniform and operating marked cruisers. Officer St. Peter's route brought him in the vicinity of Star Market parking lot. On the opposite side of the lot from the crash along Route 9, Officer St. Peter arrived after the police officers fired, readied his canine partner in case the dog was needed. He did not discharge his firearm at the time in Brookline. Background transmissions heard in Exhibit 8 also indicate that a victim, the valet, was shot in the head. Root's heavily damaged vehicle had come to rest just west of the intersection. He exited his car and began to flee on foot in the direction of the mulched area at Star Market Plaza roadway entrance. A female patron of the shopping area was aware of the crash and saw Root exit his car and fall down. The woman began to approach as if to render assistance. Root regained his feet and continued towards the berm area covered with landscape mulch. Simultaneously, officers Godden, Figueroa, Thomas McMenemy, and Fernandez were exiting their vehicles. Trooper Keneally pulled ahead and close to the Boston officers, exited his cruiser and joined the loose line of police officers that they had formed facing Root. Police commanded the woman to get away from him. Officers then began shouting numerous commands at Root to show his hands and get on the ground. Those commands were clearly audible on the body-worn camera footage from Officer Figueroa, as well as the recordings of Boston and Brookline police radio transmissions. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for shooting yourself in the foot. Pun intended there, Morrissey. You're saying that the commands were clearly audible on the body camera footage. That helps debunk something. Where the officers were saying that they clearly yelled, gun, gun, gun. Well, if you're saying that all of the commands are clearly audible on the body-worn camera, the fact that nobody hears anyone say the word gun weighs strongly against them. Just saying. Where are we? Trooper Keneally was preparing to tackle the suspect in order to subdue him, but he was warned by a Boston police officer that the suspect had a gun and that the gun was in the area of his chest. Trooper Keneally stopped and drew his firearm. Trooper Keneally, Boston officers, and bystanders reported that Root did not comply with any police commands. As officers continued to shout commands for Root to show his hands and get on the ground, Root instead moved his hands inside his jacket, consistent with reaching for a handgun with the type of shoulder holster that he was wearing. Multiple officers observed the handgun. More than one officer yelled gun. Did they, though? Simultaneously, 6 officers opened fire to stop the threat. The entire shooting lasted less than 3.5 seconds. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has, as part of its preliminary investigation, informed the Norfolk District Attorney's Office that there was evidence of 26 entry wounds on Root's body at autopsy. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I have read the autopsy report. It is gruesome. Out of respect for the family and because I don't believe that it provides too much in the way of commentary, I don't plan on going through it. A Massachusetts State Police preliminary ballistics review found that a total of 31 shell casings from 6 officers were found at the scene. All the shell casings had been matched to identified weapons. Root was on the ground near a cluster of bushes in the mulched area. Trooper Keneally, in keeping with police training, began to command several other officers to holster their weapons, while others kept their weapons out. He and Officer Figueroa approached the suspect. Some officers reported Root's hands were moving. The 2 officers took control of his hands and repositioned him on his back. In doing so, they observed a shoulder holster and what appeared to be a black semi-automatic handgun. Blood was subsequently observed both inside and outside the Chevrolet Volt. Officers were not shoulder to shoulder, though spaced in a rough line. It's not certain which wounds occurred in Boston and which occurred in Brookline. The body of Mr. Root and some faces have been blurred in the footage. Okay. The handgun was subsequently determined by state police to be a black Crossman C11 4.5mm CO2-powered semi-automatic BB pistol. EMS arrived on the scene to render assistance to Root within moments. He was transported to Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center but did not survive. The medical examiner informed Boston State Police that her preliminary findings are that Juston Root's cause of death are expected to be homicide by multiple gunshots from law enforcement weapons. Per Graham and Connor, established the objectionable reasonable standard for officers' use of force. The case provides that officers' use of force is judged based upon the totality of the circumstances from the perspective of the officer on the scene at the moment the force is used, without the benefit of hindsight in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. The so-called Graham factors used to determine the reasonableness is set forth in the case, the severity of the crime, whether the subject was an immediate threat to officers or others, how the subject was actively resisting arrest, or how the subject was attempting to evade the arrest by flight. Now, let's be very clear. When they say the totality of the circumstances, that totality is supposed to be the totality of the circumstances at that exact moment in time. They're not supposed to take into account the fact that they'd already shot at him while at the hospital. They're also not supposed to take into account the fact that he had previously entered a vehicle and traveled and basically wound up where he was. They're not supposed to take into account any of that. What they are supposed to take into account at that exact point in time is these factors, and whether or not he'd actually committed any crimes. At that point, aside from driving away and shooting at an officer with a paintball gun, I wouldn't class that necessarily as high severity. It certainly didn't warrant the police shooting at him with live rounds without attempting to de-escalate the situation. Now, don't get me wrong, I realize as I say that, because I haven't been too eloquent in it, that sounds a bit disingenuous coming out of my mouth and that I sound a bit biased. I'm not going to lie. I am in this instance. Because the simple fact of the matter is, the investigation after the fact is complete and utter bullshit. But clearly, at the point in time, he was not an immediate threat to anybody. He was not actively resisting arrest. And he was also at that point not attempting to evade arrest by flight. He was on the ground. An individual had run over to him, trained EMT had run over to him to try and provide some assistance. He wasn't going anywhere. All you've really got is the severity of the crime, because whether he was subject to the immediate threat to officers or others, again, I call bullshit. They feared for their lives. What are all the other excuse for officer safety? So the district attorney's findings. Juston Root was in and around the campus of Brigham and Women's Hospital on the morning of February 7, 2020, shortly after 9 a.m. That's not in dispute. He threatened and pursued security officers, including brandishing and displaying what was perceived to be a deadly weapon, a handgun. I can't comment on that. BWH security personnel were put in fear, communicating their perceived threat to Boston police, and placed the hospital into lockdown. Now, given that the security officer felt the need to contact police and that there were 911 calls, yes, we have to accept that. Boston police transmitted over open radio channels that the report of a party with a gun on the campus and dispatched units. Roots identified as misdirecting police officers who responded to the hospital campus. 2 officers believed they were being fired upon, and 1 physically struggled with Root on the ground before Root fled the scene. How do you believe that you're being fired upon? That's the bit that I want to understand. How is it that you manage to shoot someone in the head, fire off 15 rounds, without understanding that you're not being fired at? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, surely, of the 2 officers, it can't be that both of them had, like, PTSD and were just assuming. Remember the assault Acorn? Yeah, but True, okay. Yeah, I suppose the sounds, whatever, maybe, okay. Following the altercation at Brigham and Women's Hospital involving Boston police officers' gunfire under investigation by Suffolk District Attorney Rachel Rawlins and the Boston Police Department, Root fled the scene in a Chevrolet Volt with multiple officers joining the pursuit as it progressed down Route 9 to Brookline. During the pursuit, Boston Police Dispatch broadcast the fact that there was an officer-involved shooting, the wounding of an individual at the hospital location, and information relative to the chase. Those transmissions led all involved police officers to believe that they were pursuing an individual who had just shot someone and was still armed. That is not an unreasonable assumption based on what has been provided by the dispatch, which is unfortunate. Because if dispatch had been informed that, oh yeah, by the way, we're the ones that shot the guy in the head, well, maybe, just maybe, things could have been a little bit different. Boston PD's filled with drama queens. Oh, like you have no idea, Ghost. Godden became separated from his portable radio during the initial altercation with Root. Officer Godden heard radio transmissions in the cruiser and obviously made his own observations relative to the present dangers when he arrived in his cruiser in Brooklyn. Officers arrived at the site of the high-speed collision on Hammond Street to see a chaotic scene and heavily damaged vehicles. Officers observed Root fleeing the area of his disabled vehicle on Route 9. Fleeing's a stretch. They saw him get out of the car and stumble up onto the grass and collapse. Boston State police officers loudly and repeatedly issued commands that Root should show his hands and get on the ground. Officer Fernandez observed Juston Root ignore commands to show your hands and instead reach into his jacket in a motion consistent with drawing a firearm. Officer Fernandez fired his service weapon based on the suspect reaching into his coat and the fear that he could be shot or killed, or that another person at the scene could be shot or killed. Officer Corey Thomas observed that Juston Root was not complying with police commands, instead with his arms along his body at his chest. From his vantage point, he could clearly see the subject's arms, but not his hands. He observed his arms moving, heard a round fired, and thought it was Root firing at his fellow officers. Well, you know what thought. He thought he fired, but he shot himself. He stated that he discharged his firearm to protect other officers. Officer Brenda Figueroa observed Juston Root not complying with police commands, and from her vantage point observed that she perceived to be a smirk as he reached into his coat to pull out an object. She saw what she perceived to be the handle of a gun as to where he was reaching. She was in fear that she or another person present was going to be shot and discharged her weapon. Massachusetts State Police Police Trooper Paul Keneally observed Root exiting his car, initially fall to the ground, regain his feet, and begin to move. As he was moving to tackle Root, he heard a Boston police officer say the subject had a handgun and that the handgun was on his chest. Trooper Keneally drew his weapon and rather than execute a takedown, he observed Juston Root not complying with police commands to get on the ground and show his hands, and instead reached into his coat as if to retrieve a weapon. He was in fear for his life and discharged his weapon. You called it, Jason? Did something enlarge the emoji sizes? Yeah, I did. McMenemy first approached the disabled vault and found it empty. He then saw a male running and ordered the woman who was approaching him to get away. When she withdrew, he pointed his firearm at the suspect and ordered him to the ground and to show his hands. He observed Root grabbing at his jacket, revealing what he believed to be the backside and handle of a handgun housed in a shoulder holster in the area of the chest. When he observed the subject reach for what he believed to be a handgun, he became afraid that if the subject accessed the handgun that he would be shot. At that time, he discharged his own weapon. When Officer David Godden first encountered Root at the hospital, he saw what he perceived to be a firearm tucked into his waistband. He heard Root yell, "I'm law enforcement," before reaching into his waistband, retrieving a perceived gun and pointing it at him. It was a clear frickin' paintball gun that didn't even have the canister attached to it. So tell me how they got fired at when they didn't have any ammo in it. Makes no sense to me. Officer Godden fired his handgun, fell backwards, and thought that if he did not get up, the subject was going to kill him. He regained his feet and in an attempt to resume firing at the subject, but his gun jammed. He participated in the vehicle pursuit, and once at the scene in Brookline, he was amongst other officers shouting commands for Root to show his hands and get on the ground. He observed Root reach into his jacket and heard someone shout "gun" and fired his weapon. Well, we know that's not true, because through that audio, no one at any point yells "gun." I'm not even sure I hear the audio of someone saying that he has a gun. That sounded stupid even to me. What I mean is, I didn't hear anyone telling Keneally that he had a handgun. He believed, based on the interaction at the hospital and his actions in Brookline, that it was the subject's intention to kill responding officers with a plastic firearm that, look, it might take an eye out if he aimed really, really well. In addition to the realistic-looking handgun found on his person, an inventory of Root's vehicle revealed two identical paintball-type handguns, one of which had been damaged. A civilian witness, a physician driving to work at the Boston hospital, was traveling eastbound on Route 9 but stopped at Hammond Street intersection due to a red light. His attention was drawn to the westbound road by the sound of the loud crash. He observed Root limping away from the road and eventually up the berm that separates the road from the parking lot. He states in his recorded interview, and as he reaches the top of the area, the police cars had already arrived and the police were already on foot with their guns drawn running after him, and he came to a stop, so they did so too. Now they're all facing, pointing their guns at him. Cannot hear exactly what they're screaming, but everyone was screaming. At that time, they actually probably said 3 or 4 times while pointing their guns at him. And he turned around facing the officers, and as he did that, he with his right hand took his right hand under his coat, and at the time that happened, the police officers discharged their firearms on him. In light of the consistent narratives of the events emerging from law enforcement interviews, video footage, audio recordings, and civilian witnesses for each of the 6 police officers, I find that the use of force by police in Brookline was objectively reasonable and justified according to the factors delineated in Graham v. Connor. In light of the findings, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office will take no further action relative to the 6 officers as to the performance and execution of their duties. This was some bullshit. Played semi-pro paintball. The paintball guns usually don't look anything like real guns. Oh no, we're going to look at the photos. Don't worry. Now, in order to break this up, because that was a lot of heavy reading, I'm going to go back to the original footage of the altercation between Godden and Root at the corner of the hospital. I'm just going to bring this down for a second so that I don't inadvertently show something I'm not supposed to. No, that's the border. I want the actual news page. There we go. Move that across there. Oh, damn, I don't have my marker on. Of course not. Why would I do that? Because that would make me too much of a... Huh, how do I do that? I don't know that I can. Okay, I might just not get away with using the marker. Okay, fine. Now, obviously, there's no audio on this. Yeah, another Morrissey DA. They seem to just be bad at their jobs, honestly. Hey, Karate Catman. No, I don't believe that he's any relation to Carrie Morrissey. And like I said, I do have some concerns over this, which I will point out in the footage as soon as we get there in a second. Alright, so there he is walking around. Yep, admittedly he tries to point the police officer up that way, which is fair. I can understand why that's a problem. Okay, where are we? So he runs up. He's gotten now, pulling in. There. That's the issue that I have there, which I just realized you can't actually see. Crap. So what happens when I've got this set up for a... Screw it, I'll just turn the border off. There, that's fine. This is the minor issue that I have. Is as Godden's coming out, when Juston sees him, that does look like he initially pulls something out of his waistband. I'll be perfectly honest there. But it's only halfway, and it certainly does not justify the reaction. Because then he's got his back turned to him, Godden shouldn't have any sort of an idea. And then when you look, it's very clearly still in his waistband. Pulls a weapon, fire, fire. And there it goes. Godden falls on his ass. And unfortunately, the whole thing about who was standing over who is off camera. What's this dude doing? It's the first time I've noticed that. stumbles back, and off he goes. Okay, and that guy's more interested with the traffic cones. Fair enough. So yeah, like I said, there is a slight issue with this because we've got to take the law as it is, not as it should be. And the way that everything's written, the way that the case law is and that sort of thing, that's reasonably justifiable in that instance. I don't personally believe that Godden should have pulled his weapon there, but that instant there does look like Juston's pulling something out of his waistband. So that is going to be enough for them to use that to... Godden just had root at the driver's side window 1 minute prior to the interaction. Yeah. What are you covering? So this is another police shooting, well, another death, shall we say, in the Massachusetts area. This is in Boston, and annoyingly, a good number of the same police officers from the Karen Reed trial are involved. And when I say that, I mean Officer Buchanan, Trooper Proctor, Fanning's in there, Trooper Dunn, Lank. So between this, Birchmore, and Reed, it's like the trifecta of issues, Tammy. Self-deletion by cop. Well, that's what the officers say. I honestly do not believe it. I do not believe that they should have escalated to this situation. Yes, and I'm going to play the audio with Proctor at some point as well. Because that was not something that I thought it was appropriate either. So, all right, anyway, hang on. Let me take this down for a second. Nope, that's the border. That's the news page. Just because I've got this open in a Google Drive and I don't want to be doxing people by accident. So that's Figueroa's body cam. Let's go to Figueroa's body cam. This is the only body cam footage that is available. Despite the fact that there is clear evidence that other officers were wearing body cameras at the time, and they should have had them turned on. So this is actually really dodgy. We don't have to worry. All right. Well, we can just wait for the audio. That's fine. Yeah, Proctor's involved. I know.
Get down! Get down! Get down! Let me see your hand!
Oh, yeah, by the way, trigger warning, because you do hear all 31 shots go off, and because I'm going to play this through... Fair warning, because I know that the family may be watching as well. I do intend to play this in its entirety. You will see Juston's... Well, I mean, I don't... He was pronounced dead at the hospital, so I don't know if I would technically call it a corpse at this stage. I just want to say... Fair warning. Okay? Laptop's obstructing the driver's view. Yeah, that's not great either. But what's worse is, this is her hand or arm completely obstructing her body-worn camera. Yes, it is a literal trigger warning because triggers are touched, yes. Now, I'm going to replay that very quickly. You tell me if at any point any of you hear anyone call out that he's got a gun.
Suspect is down.
Now that's the footage where we got to in the first or second episode. We get up to this point where I think I jumped ahead and everyone was congratulating each other and all that sort of stuff, which was absolutely reprehensible. And it was only when I actually played this through and watched this the entire time that I realized there's some additional malfeasance that goes on here.
Take a shot. Suspect is down. He was holding the firearm.
Back up! Get out! Right there. Holster. You guys holster right now. Holster.
They're literally standing there. They've unloaded 31 bullets at this point. They allegedly saw his hands moving, and they were ready to put another magazine in him. Like, I get it. They're trained to keep going until the threat is neutralized or whatever else. 31 is still overkill, in my opinion. And the way that they continue to act is just...
Hold his hands. Watch his hands. He's still moving. Move that car. Move. Watch his hands. Crossfire. Get everyone up from behind. Someone approach? No, straight. He's still got a firearm. Holster. You all set? I'm going up on him.
Okay.
I got gloves. Hold him.
Ready?
Glove up. Just hold him. Just hold the gun point. Hold up. Get gloves
Want me to go with you?
Yeah, he's fucking. He's dead.
I'm going with you.
Hold on. Let me glove up.
Who has gloves? Who has gloves? Give me your gloves. I'm going with you.
All right.
You going with you? No.
Hey, get back. We'll go up. We're gonna glove up.
We're gonna go
Stay
up.
back. The less that approaches, the better. The less that approaches, the better.
You ready?
Go that side.
Right in his chest. Alright, guys, don't. I got my gun down if you don't have to. It is left hand.
Grab your hands. Secure your hands first. Secure your hands.
There you go.
Secure the hands. All right.
I don't have gloves on.
It's okay. I have them.
Where's the firearm?
It's underneath him.
Hey, stop me, supervisor. I shot it. Do me a you want to roll him or leave it? Just send one roll. I got it. Secure. Suicide by the clock. All right, stop.
What do you notice there? Did they even check for a pulse? They were more than willing to put him in cuffs. Threat's been neutralized. You fired 31 bullets. Sure, okay, fine. EMTs might be on the way. But you're just going to leave him laying there like that? Real classy.
Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck? Fuck is
Breathe.
I shot 2 times. Hey, it's no injuries, but get EMS. We got an pretty good 16.
No, allegedly Bush, no one else had any body cam on. The main officer that was shooting at him supposedly had body cam on him. There are photos showing that he had a body cam on his person. Pretty much all of them had been assigned body cams on this day, and they were supposed to have them on. So, yeah, I call some significant bullshit. Okay, that's fine, sorry. Damn, all the notifications. notifications I get.
What did I hate? Right there.
Got one suspect's in custody.
Right here.
One suspect's in custody right now. One suspect's detained.
One suspect in custody. Not really sure that's the appropriate way to put it either. Yeah, he had a BB gun. KY, that's what he had. He'd previously shot at an officer with a paintball gun, and he had a BB gun holstered on his shoulder. Now, they're alleging that he reached in and that it looked like he was going for that. Personally, I'm willing to bet that he was more than likely, I don't know, reaching to... No, you know what? Even I can't speculate on that. Whether he was reaching to, like, pressing against an injury or whatever else, I can't really say. In the offshot chance that he was reaching in for the BB gun and that, I don't know, this was his, what do you call it, Ned Kelly last stand, I can't really say. Because no one's ever going to know what was going through his mind because they lit him up with 31 bullets. So...
Sucks that I want to.
Huh?
Sucks that I fucking need to.
Paul, did you shoot him? You all right? Yeah. Sure?
Yeah, big firearm. It's shot by a...
EMTs have arrived finally.
Did you shoot? We're good. I did.
Who you shot?
We shot.
Hear that? I shot, he shot. Okay, you don't say anything to anybody. Wasn't he on some sort of rampage with his car? Couldn't you say he premeditated this from the vlog that he done earlier? No. FYI, a massive ex-law enforcement channel donut operator covers shot sounds with duck quacks. Yep. Oh yeah, there's plenty of body cams there. But the six that allegedly shot had no body cam on. Wait, where's the... I haven't viewed the vlog, KY. Simple fact of the matter is, he had some significant mental issues, is my understanding. But that doesn't justify this. Not in the slightest. Where are we? Okay, let's go to... Oh, yeah, let's look at the photographs. Okay. So these are all photographs that were taken after the fact. Where is... There's one that is important to me. Crime scene response. No. Trained EMT at Root's side describes his condition. He was a zero threat. Yep, and we're going to listen to the audio of her. I've got that, so don't stress about that. Don't know why they bothered taking photos of the Honda so much. It's not even... Oh, because that was the car he ran into. That makes more sense. So I'm sitting there thinking, why did they take so many photos of that again? Damn. Okay. That's a hell of a sideswipe. You know, I'm sure that'll buff right out. The tent to keep the weather off the scene. He said, I'm rolling. He wanted to make sure he said gun under him on rolling. Again, that'll buff right out. Damn, he took out 3 cars on the way through. Get that you need to document the scene. But you could have at least put like a bookmark or something in there. Damn it, cops. Was a good looking Honda. GTA 4 footage. You know, my first thought at seeing those bumpers, although I know that they must have been put there by the police to get him off the road, was like, damn, they all lined up nicely, didn't they? Hit him at a nice angle. God damn, look at that. Okay, these ones are all unimportant, so I'm just scrolling through. How many Honda Civics are there in Massachusetts? They pitted him in traffic. Yes, they did, Bush. That was one of the major issues. Is that despite it being against the policy, they decided to be, at least one of them decided to be a good idea to try and pit maneuver him in the middle of traffic. See, I want to make it clear. I want to make it very clear, guys. I'm not trying to obfuscate or dismiss the fact that what he did was potentially criminal actions. What I'm looking at here is the negligence and the inappropriate conduct taken by the officers. Because ultimately, they took his life, and I don't believe that what he did justified that. What about cameras from the surrounding businesses? Apparently nothing viable. According to the cops, anyway. There's a lot more video in terms of what happened near the hospital because there were a couple of security cameras and that sort of thing, but even that isn't great footage. Damn. How the hell do you mistake that for a black Volt, by the way? There's a bank right there. You're telling me they didn't have cameras? I'm not saying they didn't. I'm saying that they were apparently okay, moving on. I'm saying that they were apparently non-functioning or the footage was not viable. I believe are the words that were used. And yes, for those of you that didn't hear it, that sound was Several cameras that had the comings and goings of the McAlberts and Karen that were deleted. I heard that's a Brady violation. That is a black Chevy Volt if you close your eyes. Almost like in Canton, you need the super secret cameras as well as the regular ones. Yep. Well, see, the funny thing is, there's a number of the officers as well that had their body cams on in the car and on after the fact. But conveniently, during the actual altercation, there was just the one that's viable and they've released. That's after the EMTs have left. Come on, where's the photo of your negligence? Because I know that it's in here, I saw it. Bullet casings. Another bang-up job. They're actually using a rock to hold down a piece of crime scene tape. Wait, is it? I was like, oh shit, have they got glass on that as well? No, that's just water. Oh, here we go. So, this is the Canton Canine guy, so we know that this is one of the officers that was readying his dog in case it was needed. Might be slightly difficult to see there. There's a gunshot hole in the front of this police cruiser. A little bit easier to see there. Deleted the footage like the 40 minutes of missing footage from Sergeant Bukaki smashing out Karen's taillight. That's St. Peter's cruiser. Thank you. I mean, Boston or Canton. This is in Boston. But it's in the area where the reason these are linked is because Massachusetts State Patrol. So we've got, like I said, we've got Proctor involved, we've got Buchanan involved, we've got a number of individuals that formed part of the investigation into these officers that ultimately led to Morrissey saying, I find no charges of negligence or action taken. So, what's that? Looks like a bird poop. Yeah, no, it's a bullet entry. A little bit easier to see there. And that's just crime scene photos. Oh, look, in this one they get to prove that it was snowing as well. Wonder how many pieces of tail light they found after the snow melted. I mean, they were finding casings the day after, which, you know. Oh, that's what that is, trajectory. Okay, I was like, what the hell is that all about? Marking bullet casings. Marking bullets themselves. So. And what was really disturbing is, as you saw in the body cam footage towards the end, one of the officers is saying, holster your weapons. There's crossfire, holster your weapons. And you've still got 3 or 4 of them with their weapons out, still aiming. And you can't claim that they were in fear of the lives of others when it's quite clear that they could have easily shot someone else themselves. Like, again, I'll be perfectly honest, the Nissan Juke is a crime itself. Did the scene talk to them? Probably. Told them where to look, told them what to do, all that sort of stuff. Alright. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the EMT's interview. I haven't actually listened to this one yet myself. It's 23 minutes, so I'll either end on that or I'll move on to and go through the final police report. But there is so much to this, honestly. Kind of had shot someone earlier in the incident. Yes.
My name is Trooper David DeChico, assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. I am here at the second floor of Boston Police Headquarters in a conference room. Along with me is
Detective Kevin Finn with the Boston Police Department. I'm assigned to District 11. And ma'am, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Shelley McCarthy.
the date is February 7th, 2020. The time, according to my cell phone, is approximately 12:37
Yep,
p.m.
Chico's in it.
All right, ma'am. We're here because we were told that you witnessed an incident in Brookline today.
Yep.
So I'd like you to just tell us what happened in your own words, what you observed, and could you please start with why you were in the area, you know, what time you got there and why you were there?
I was killing time in the parking lot having coffee before a doctor's appointment. It was about 9:30 a.m. Could have been a little before, could have been a little after, I'm not positive.
And what parking lot are you talking about?
In front of the Shaw's on Route 9 in Chestnut Hill, or the Star Market, in that plaza with a CVS and a gas station and other restaurants.
Okay, go on.
And I was just sitting there having coffee, and I could hear a car coming that you could tell was beat up, and it got my attention. It sounded like it was on rims or something like that. So I was just looking, you know, because the traffic was going this way on Route 9 in front of me, and I saw the car kind of hit the curb and smash into the curb. He wasn't fully in the entranceway yet, maybe a quarter of the way and half in.
Damn good question why it wasn't towed.
A tall, skinny man get out of his car wearing a long coat, and I saw him.
And I'm also just going to say, it annoys the hell out of me, because very clearly, it was bad enough that during the retrial, they wouldn't, like, half the time they wouldn't stop and pause and whatnot and wait for the sirens. Ken Peter strikes again. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is an important interview in relation to a matter. This is them not actually stopping and saying, hang on, we'll just wait until the sirens go or whatever else. Or, I don't know, put some soundproofing in the goddamn room. Like, it's ridiculous.
And walk up from his car right up a little dirt hill right next to where his car was, and he fell. And he got back up, and I realized something was really wrong. I could hear cops coming, but there was no cops there yet. So I jumped out of my car. I used to be an EMT, so I jumped out of my car, ran over to him. He had fallen again and was trying to stand back up again, but he was very, very wobbly. And when I got to him, when I approached him, he was covered in blood. I couldn't tell, it was so fast, where it was coming from. It didn't matter, but his shoulder, he was trying to stand up, and he had one shoulder. I think it was his left shoulder. I could be mistaken. Didn't have blood or anything on it, and so he was trying to stand up, and I had my hand on his shoulder to try and lift him up as I hear the cops parking, but my back is to the entranceway because he's on the hill, so they're coming from behind me. And as I literally have my hand on him, I hear screaming, run, 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 go. And I turned around, and there was what seemed like at least a dozen.
Run, 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 go. Wonder if maybe someone's misinterpreted that or deliberately obfuscated that to say, hey, I thought someone was saying gun, gun, gun.
Officers with the weapons drawn, pistols, and it looked like, or handguns, whatever, and it looked like shotguns. And I didn't know, because I thought it was just a car accident, and I was just trying to help him, and I ran. My car was maybe 30 feet away from his car and from where he was on the ground. And when I left him, when I turned around and saw all the cops charging with their guns, I started to run down the hill, and in that little entranceway, I almost fell there, and I don't think I had even made it to the grass before I just heard pop, 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 pop. And I didn't know what was going on. I just got my car, and, you know, an officer came over to me not that long after, and, I was literally holding his shoulder maybe 4 seconds before he got shot.
Okay.
Like, I barely had time to get away. I mean, obviously they were waiting for me to get away, but it was instantly.
The entranceway you're talking about, you mentioned that's the Star Market entrance?
Yes.
Okay, that's to the parking lot?
Correct.
Okay.
You have a map in front of you. If you want to put, why don't you put an X on the entranceway that we were discussing?
Okay. When I saw his car too, when I was running up to him, I could tell that because you could hear the car coming from so long away, there was a lot of right side front damage. I didn't know what had happened, but it was very, very clear that it was not from hitting the curb right then and there. So I think I was probably about right. Parked right about there.
So why don't you draw a line from that mark you just made, and you can just write, you know, my car or something like that, so we know what that mark means. Yeah, And then,
Writing.
can you draw an X or something where, more or less where you think he was? That's his car there?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you went up a hill?
There was, so when you come in the little median entrance, there was like trees with a little mulch dirt hill, and that's where when he got out of his car, he walked up the sidewalk and walked up the hill, fell once.
Okay.
And then I was just watching him, and it looked like he was holding his chest, so I thought he was having a heart attack from the car accident.
So he was already holding his chest. So that could potentially give credence to he wasn't actually reaching for a gun, which is good. I mean, unfortunately, it's still up to interpretation by the police officers at the time as to whether or not, but it's still winter storm.
And then it wasn't until I was standing over him and I saw that he was covered in blood. And like I said, the shoulder was the only area that in the seconds that this happened that wasn't contaminated, and was picking him up just like this, and then cops right there run.
So why don't you make like a small triangle where you think he was at that hill at that point?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll give us a good reference. Okay.
I'm going to show you on my department cell phone.
Okay.
And approximately where I think we may be looking. Does this look familiar in terms of the entrance, the CVS?
Yeah, so, yeah, going past that. Exactly. So it was basically around, so my car would be right there, right kind of behind that yellow sign, second car, and he crashed, I want to say, like right about here.
About here.
And this is the dirt hill. So whether it was in front of the ATM, I'd have to be there and look at it. I would know instantly. I think it might have been before the ATM. I think there's a cleared out patch right there. But it was a cleared out patch. It was a dirt mulch hill that had like trees on top, and he was walking up the hill, fell twice, and then I was there, and then I beelined it.
All right. I'm going to take a screenshot of this where you're describing at 12:44.
Can you do me a favor and just write your name at the top of this page up here, and I'll tell you the date and time now, so you can put that underneath your name. It's February 7th, 2020 at 12:45 p.m.
My writing is a little shaky.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
So I'm so nervous I'm going to forget something, but no, I just heard the car coming.
Where was he? Was he driving towards the city or away from the city?
He was going westbound. He was going
outbound, away from Boston.
Away.
Yeah, westbound. Okay.
Yeah, he was going westbound, and he just, like I said, I just could hear it and thought he was pulling over for his car being messed up, and then he kind of, like fully crashed, but he crashed it. You could see it was all messed up. Took me a minute before I ran over to him, and I did, and then I turned around, and there was honestly probably 15 cops with their guns drawn, running at me.
So what can you describe what he looked like, his physical description, and what he was wearing? Was he white male, black male?
I believe he was tall and thin. I believe he was an older white male. Again, the face I didn't really get a look at. I think he was a white male. I think he probably had a beard or a mustache. And he was wearing a long brown coat. More than that, but he was definitely tall, thin. Because when I first saw him get out and walking, that's why I kind of thought it was a heart attack. So whether he had whatever gave me the indication, I am blanking on right now by his appearance. But I definitely got the idea that he was an older. Whether he was like late 40s and looked late 60s, I don't know.
Yeah. Did he say anything to you? When
You're not wrong,
I
Bish.
didn't hear any words.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Was he carrying anything?
Not that I saw. I saw him just stumble, get out of his car, and walk up. Like I
Way
said,
to try and pull out of it whether or not she saw a gun.
I didn't see him fumbling in pockets or anything like that. he was holding his chest. Whether he's holding something, I don't know. And I was standing over him, and I don't think I would have caught that, but he didn't say anything to me, and he was a mess by the time I was standing over him, so I don't think he could really talk.
When you say he's a mess, can you describe groaning? Can you describe kind of?
No, he wasn't groaning. He wasn't making noises, but he was. It was so quick. I couldn't tell where all the blood was coming from, but he was covered in blood, like his outer jacket. He was covered in blood, and I couldn't see if it wasn't like a major head wound or anything that stuck out. But he just he fell, and then pick him up. You could just see that, lights off, no one home almost.
You said lights off, no one home? That's what you said?
Lights on, no one's home. That's the
Okay.
expression. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I get it. I just want you to elaborate on that.
You could see that he had just been through something, and he, again, under the assumption that it was a heart attack or a car accident, shock. It could have been shock that was on his face, or, he was just, I was about to say, or I was about to get the words out, are you okay? And then it was, go. So I didn't speak to him. I didn't hear his voice.
Okay.
I was standing over him, like I said, but when I was standing over him, I was so concerned on, is there a part of him because he was trying to get up, is there a part of him I can touch that doesn't have any fluid on it,
You said you touched his shoulder, right?
I was, yeah.
Did you touch anywhere else on it?
No, because that was one spot that had nothing on it, and it was just it was barely...
Wait a minute. No, it was the one spot that had nothing on it. Just, no, I'm a former EMT, but I'm not touching blood. Okay, fair enough. And no, look, I mean, to me, she seems fairly reliable, but she does sound shaken up, which is, I mean, look, it may be odd for an EMT, but at the same time, she's probably not usually there when things like this occur. She's there after the fact. She may have attended to gunshot wounds previously. She may have attended to horrific accidents, but I would say probably after the fact as opposed to, physically being present. She's probably a more honest one until the police told her to go away. Oh, is that right? They told her to go away, did they? She almost got a bullet. Yeah, which I think is fair to say you'd probably be shaken up by that, so...
Even just to lift him up when everything happened.
So that's the only place you felt on him?
Yes.
Okay.
When you heard run, go, do you know who was saying that?
Well, I had heard the cops show up, pull up behind me.
Okay.
And so...
You heard the sirens?
Yeah. I could hear the sirens coming after he crashed, but again, I was under the assumption it was just a car accident. So when I was standing over him, I could hear the cops coming and, the ambulances. And I wasn't expecting. And so they were like, get out of the way, run. And I just turned around and there was probably 15 or people, cops. And at that point in time, whether they were they were stadies, undercovers, there was everything there. So in Boston, so at that point in time, what uniform they have, I don't remember. It was a lot of them and a lot of guns running at me.
When you started to run away, where are you facing? Are you facing where the police officers and the injured person are, or are you facing in another direction?
So if you're the injured person and the cops are running this way, because I looked, was like, oh, I just beelined it right there to my car.
Okay. So at this point, the officers and the injured party are behind you?
They're behind me.
Okay. You're running back to your car. What happens next?
I almost fell in the, I was just shaking because I didn't know what was happening. And then I heard pop, 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 pop. Whether I was back on that little grassy patch or if it was still in the entranceway, I don't recall, but it was within seconds of me running. Yeah. And they were yelling at him, get on the ground, blah, 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 but the guy was
so get on the ground, and then anything else?
No, once I saw what was going on and they were yelling at me to run, I I didn't know what was happening. I think they were yelling at him to get on the ground, but I can't imagine he actually got up. And then whatever happened, and I just was sitting in my car, like, oh my God, and then waited for officers to come over.
At any point when you were running to your car, did you look behind? Did you look behind to see what was happening, or did you continue to run?
Well, I almost fell, so I did kind of look behind, and all I saw was, because I was like, is this happening? You know, and I did kind of look, and I just saw that amount of cops, and there was still more coming and coming and coming, going up the hill after I heard the pop, 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 pop. So they were advancing towards the guy.
Okay.
And then I just sat in my car, called my dad.
You said that,
No, this is one of the officers interviewing
after he
Bruce.
crashed and he walked up the hill that you described. You said that he had fallen, he got back up, he had fallen again. So he was mobile to a degree. He was moving. He was
Very
trying to get
unsteady,
up.
very unsteady, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he got out of the car and was like that, and then he down and just kind of like rolled himself up. So I thought he was in a complete state of shock from crashing his car. And then I saw the car and realized that the damage to it was clearly not from hitting a curb or something like that. And like I said, I had heard the car coming down Route 9 because I was looking. So I saw him pull up because I could hear the clanky, whatever. It was, I don't know, missing tires, or I don't know what it was. But it was so loud that it got my attention. I saw him crash and watched the entire thing.
Yeah. So you described a pop, 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 pop. So you think you heard 4 shots approximately?
It was like 4 or 5.
Okay. And you didn't see anyone shoot though, or you did?
I did not see anyone shoot.
Okay.
There was a lot of cops, a lot of guns. I did not see anyone shoot.
Okay.
See, in her deposition testimony is very telling as well. His right hand continued the entire time from getting out of his vehicle to the last time I saw him. His hand remained on his right hand remained on his chest. There was no getting him up to sit a second time. He had no strength. He couldn't do it. He was rolling over on his right side to get up, trying to. He couldn't talk. His eyes were like bouncing around like ping pong balls. His jacket was covered in blood. His eyes were just bouncing around. I put my ear to his mouth to see if he was breathing. His jacket was too bloody for me to open in the middle. His breathing was off the charts. I started looking for a stick or branch or something so I could open his jacket. I heard all the sirens. Maybe there's some sort of medical emergency. He was struggling to breathe. Rapid breathing. His eyes all over the place. His eyes stuck in the back of his head, not moving. He was making gurgling noises with his breathing. Did he ever say anything to you? No, I don't. In my opinion, even being an EMT aside, I don't think there's any way he could have spoke. And after that, no, he didn't try and get up. Men were screaming all sorts of commands and other things. I turned my head to Route 9 and there was just cops after cops after cops running at me at their gunpoint. One cop finally just screamed to run. Because I was surrounded, they were coming from every direction. My life literally flashed before my eyes. She turned to him and said, "I'm sorry, I know they're not here for me." And I let go of his face. I turned and ran, and I hit one of the cops as I started running. I was within feet, within feet, I hear gunshots. I thought I got hit in the back and almost fell down. Was it intelligible? Some of it was, some of it wasn't. Get down, show me your hands, lay down, stand up. So everyone was all over the place. He was dying while trying to survive. Sounds like a sad situation. Yeah. Cop hit me as I was running, and then I did turn around. I turned around, and when I almost fell, they were in a semicircle around him. Not like a distance than they were like I was. They literally hit each other on the way. They then basically went up to him as close as I was, and then I heard the shots. They had to have been next to him when they fired because they don't fire when they're hitting me on the way out. So they had to have been up by his side when they fired. So probably clearly within visual reach. Had him completely surrounded.
Did you see anyone, excuse me, did you see anyone approach the guy on the ground after the gunshots? You said you saw cops moving.
Oh,
moving
he was
towards him.
swarmed with ambulances and all sorts of officers.
About how long afterwards did you see, first aid, whether it was officers or ambulance? About how long between, the gunshots and first aid being administered? Instantly. By
Not
the
only
police
that,
officers?
Brittany, they kicked him to the ground at one point.
There was, as soon as the cops,
He's already taken.
I ran and they started moving in, and then I heard pop.
Let's be clear as well. By the time that this has happened, by the time that he has crashed the car and he's up the embankment, he's already lost half of the blood in his body from being shot previously and driving. Someone spread thinner, that was worse than I thought.
Pop, but again, I was kind of running and looking back, and then it could have been at that point, or maybe a minute later, there was like 4 ambulances, and they were out there running, so I think they kind of pulled up right after, or maybe they had been, I think the ambulances got there right after.
Okay.
And then I saw stretchers come out. I didn't see him being taken away. I saw a couple empty stretchers go back in the ambulances, and I didn't know what happened, and I was just, and that was all blocked off for the crime scene, and there was, all the cop cars kind of blocking it, and I honestly didn't want to see what was there. So it was, I ran.
No worries, Kim. I'll do a recap as soon as we're done with her recorded interview then.
First aid, what happened from there, I don't know.
Did you take any pictures or videos with your phone?
No, I was way too shook up. But I did tell the other officers that there was a guy who I believe was brought here filming. Because before we knew anything was going on, before it was just like, once I realized this guy was messed up, once he fell, I was like, oh, help him out, maybe call an ambulance. And this guy was, he was from, I think, before the shooting, filming it in the car, or like right when they were like putting up the crime scene tape, which was like instant. And they're like, dude, you're gonna get arrested, stop taking pictures.
Or he's
like, come on. And he's like, oh, I'm filming it, it's already on Facebook, da 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 da. So I think he will have footage. I don't know how much he actually took, but he was allowed off about having it.
Okay. Can you describe that guy, or do you know his name to start with?
Oh no, he was just in the parking lot. I think I saw him when I was waiting downstairs. He was.
I do think it's interesting that one of the few people that was interviewed by Trooper Proctor allegedly had videos, but these videos were not supplied to the police and they were not released. Kind of wondering why.
Driving a gray pickup, I know that, because he was just yelling and being obnoxious, and I kept looking back at him like, what, dude, are you seeing what I'm seeing? So I know he was in like a big gray pickup truck.
What was he wearing, do you know?
I want to say like sweatpants, like a gray hoodie. He was mouthing off and being all sorts of, not helpful. But I am pretty sure that the officers got his information.
I just want to make sure. Was he white or black? I forget. What did you say?
White dude.
Wait a second, is this the Trooper Proctor? Yes, Ghost. That's why we're here. For those of you that don't know, this case predates Karen Reed and the Sandra Birchmore case, but involves many of the same actors. You've got Proctor, you've got his boss, you've got one of the Alberts makes an appearance, Bukaki's in here. It is a shit show. Because these are the guys that investigated the officers that fired 31 bullets into a man who was already basically dead and dying on the side of the road. That's why we're here. Okay? Didn't the body cam say Feb 24? Don't think so. Might have been when it was retrieved, maybe. I doubt it. But yeah, no, that's why this is such a shit show. That's why these... Because at this point, there are 3 cases that are intrinsically intertwined with police corruption in the Canton, Stoughton, Boston area. Would an expert on proctor's testimony be considered a proctologist? Damn it, Acorn. So the reason that this one came to light to me was because obviously, hang on, let me do this properly. The whole of Norfolk County, yeah. Let me do this properly. The reason that Juston Root's case came to light to me was because I was doing a little bit of extra research in relation to the Karen Reed case. So let's do a quick breakdown of exactly what has happened here. Karen Reed obviously was a very high-profile case where it's alleged that police were involved in the cover-up of the death of John O'Keefe, and they're trying to blame it on Karen. From Karen's case, I became aware of the Sandra Birchmore case. A 23-year-old woman who was found dead in her Canton apartment that was investigated by state police and was ruled a suicide despite the fact that she had a piece of material around her neck and she was found sitting against the door with the material attached to the handle on the door. So literally, so for example, that there, it was hanging from there and down, and they reckon that was how it was used to kill her. Now, she had been basically groomed by 2 police officers from Stoughton since the age of 13. She lost her virginity to one of them at 15. She was allegedly pregnant at the time that she was killed. And this is just, it's all spiraled from there. Now, while I was looking into the Birchmore case, Juston's name came up. And I felt that a distinct need to look into that one as well. Because, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot their boss was in charge. Their boss was involved in the grooming as well. Thank you, Burberry's. And frankly, I think the only reason he's really pissed off is because the Farwells brought to light the things that he'd done with other people. So, then I was looking through comments and chats and that sort of thing, and I saw Juston's name come up, and I said, okay, I need to look into this one as well. And so here is where we are. We are looking at a case of a gentleman who was mentally unwell at the time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was at the hospital for what should have been mandatory treatment. He got into an altercation with some security guards who ultimately contacted the police. Those 2 officers, the main one, Godden and St. Peter, got into an altercation there, fired 15 rounds at the hospital. Now keep in mind, that's at the hospital, because in total there was 46 shots fired in this incident as a whole. But they separated out to try and make it look a little bit better. So, at the hospital, despite the fact that he's carrying around a paintball gun, and that is really the only thing that he's ever seen, because they can say what they want about the black holstered BB gun after the fact that they've shot him or whatever, but at the hospital where he's just walking around yelling, I'm law enforcement, all this sort of stuff. The world needs some badges going up some of these asses. Yeah. The police officers open fire 15 shots. One of them hits one of the hospital valets in the head with a gunshot. And in amongst all of it, despite the fact that he only had a paintball and a BB gun on him, they're alleging that he's the one that shot them, and that's what goes out over the radio. So all of those 15, 20 officers that followed him to the eventual car crash are sitting there thinking that he's just shot somebody, he shot at police, and that he's an imminent threat. So because some morons decided to cover their own asses, I won't say that he's innocent. I'm sorry, I can't say that because I do think that certain things happened that were criminal actions that may have caused some issues. Do I think that, did the hospital valet survive? I'm actually not 100% sure. I haven't looked into that. I keep meaning to because I think that the valet should be a separate investigation because it was being looked into by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. They all did not know until 9:32 a.m. Oh, thank you, man. Also, where does the car accident come into it? Because after being shot at the hospital, he gets into his car and drives down Route 9 to try and get away from the police. Which, in his mental state, yeah, okay, I can understand. It's dangerous. He hit 90 miles an hour. At one point, one of the police officers does a pit maneuver in traffic. And then... Oh, so the valet did survive? Excellent. Thank you. He's got some eye issues? Okay. So then he basically winds up on 3 wheels, takes out 3 different cars, car stops, he gets out, he stumbles up the embankment towards the CVS area, the parking lot. The EMT comes over, tries to help him, she gets told to run away. Within 3.5 seconds of arriving on the scene, the police light him up with 31 bullets. Now, there's been various things that have been said that... They're telling him to get down on the ground, that someone yells out he's got a gun, that one of the officers fires, so all of the officers fire, all that sort of stuff. Firstly, it never should have gotten to that point. Secondly, the 3.5 seconds is some bullshit. Okay? And again, as I said, the only body camera footage that is available is from Officer Figueroa, who conveniently has her body camera placed in such a way that her arm blocks the view for most of it. I think it was either 5 of the officers that were on scene or all 6 had been assigned body camera footage, body-worn cameras. One of them allegedly takes the body camera off after the fact and throws it into the back of his seat so that no one asks him about it. There's photographs showing that he had body camera on him. The only body cam that survived the scrubbing. That's a fair call. Not communicating with one another, he could have survived with a very long road to recovery, but would have survived. Now maybe he would have been charged since he was already down. Look, probably. I'm not... Why I'm looking at this mainly is the last few moments of his life. Because like I said, there are a multitude of a variety of factors beforehand where he's done some actions, they've done some actions, whatever else. I'm looking at what occurred after that car accident and after he was up that embankment, because that's what I give a shit about, frankly. Because that is when the cops, in my opinion, commit murder. And they've justified it to themselves by saying, oh, he had a paintball gun. Oh, we thought we saw him reaching for a gun. The EMT's testimony shows that he was sitting there clutching his chest the entire time. Anyway, let's finish this audio. I'm probably not going to have time to go through the Brookline final report, so when I do a part 4 of this, I will obviously be posting out and letting people know, because I know some very specific people are watching. I don't know when it will be, because unfortunately I can't do it day after day after day, because then I'm going to, want to know how little the valet got? What did the valet get, Stingy? Let me know. All right, there's a few minutes left on this, but hopefully that gives a bit of a recap, and that's why I'm here investigating this one, because the wrongful death suit against the police should not have been dismissed on the basis of qualified immunity. I genuinely believe that their actions do rise to the level of misconduct and should not be covered. Yes, Stingy, I got what you meant. I want to know, how much did he get paid? And got it. $100,000 from Boston and $900 from the hospital. God damn it.
White guy,
yeah,
gray hoodie, gray pickup.
Gray pickup, yeah. It looked like a nice big new one. And I want to say he was just like kind of bumming it. Sweatpants. I want to say gray hoodie, but I could be mistaken.
Okay.
But he was definitely filming away.
Would you just state your cell phone number for the audio recorder?
Yep, it's 617-953-2117.
Okay. Is there anything else about the incident today that we haven't already discussed? Anything?
That's exactly how I feel about it, Lane.
You or information you think we should know?
I'm so scared that I'm forgetting something, but
well,
I mean, I think that was
that may happen, but we're gonna give you business cards, and you can call
Okay.
us if you want, if you think of something.
Yeah,
and
no,
we
I
can-
think that was it. Just saw the car crash, saw him fall, went over to it, I had my hand on his shoulder. Cops came, I started running, pop, pop, pop. And I stayed in my car until I was brought here. And I interviewed a bunch of people there.
Okay.
I think that's it, but like I said, I've never been involved with anything like this, so I very well might be.
She's freaking out a little
I don't
bit.
think
That's
I'm
understandable in the
It's
circumstances.
pretty vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
It's pretty vivid.
When you made
Yeah,
contact
Cam
with
Brittany,
him, you said
I'll
he was
be
heading
putting
off
everything
the
into a
road.
playlist so
Did
that
you
you can just
get
go bang,
one on
bang,
you?
bang.
No, God, no. Because I walked out, I was like, ugh, I'm not gonna touch it, buddy.
Okay.
But then I saw, like, because he was trying to roll in whatever way he was rolling, that shoulder looked clean.
Yeah.
And it was, well, I didn't have my full hand on him. I was like, you know. And then that's when I was
Oh, excuse me.
run.
What was his position when you heard run? Was he just
On the
still
ground.
rolling, trying to get up, or was he on the, you know?
He was on the ground. He was probably on his side trying to like roll himself up. But like I said, his eyes, he looked pretty vacant, you know. So I think he was probably, because he did the same fall twice, and it was just like down, and I like wobbled over a little bit more up the hill, down, and I think when I left him, he was probably either on his back or probably on his side,
But rolling.
down on the ground, yeah, just trying to like get himself up. But he looked like he was walking, and he had no idea where he was walking or what he was
Okay.
doing.
All right.
When he was on the ground, was he facing towards where the police officers were coming from?
So he's
He didn't
down on the
seem
ground, rolling
that mad
around,
that there was cops. He didn't seem to know what was going on.
and he didn't know what
Just
was
as far
going
as
on.
I didn't know what was going on until it was too late. And even when they started screaming, and I was standing over him, there was no like, uh-oh. There was no
That recognition in
movement
his eyes.
change, words, anything.
Okay. You got anything else, Detective?
I got nothing further.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking with us. I am going to terminate the interview now at 1 p.m.
Likewise, I'm going to terminate the stream as I do need to get to work, but I think that at the very least, given how much there is involved in this, and I understand that there goes going to be refiling in the Supreme Court and that sort of thing, I will be continuing to follow this. So what I'm thinking is maybe once a week, once a fortnight, I'll keep going through the evidence, keep going through interviews and that sort of thing, because there is hours of this stuff. Honestly, there really is. And I'm very much interested in it, and if I'm going to be looking through it, I might as well do it with you guys. So I think we've found something that I'll continue to go through. At the very least, it's going to form part of the Canton 3 series, because between Reed, Birchmore, which will probably be the next thing that I look at, because I want to cover there was a status hearing on the Birchmore case. If you didn't look at it, listen to what I DM'd you. No fucks to give. Guy has a new song. Oh, no shit. Really? Okay, hang on. I love his music. Fortnight, 2 weeks for the Americans. We'll try and end on a relatively upbeat note, apparently. Thomas Benjamin Esquire, everybody.
My brain won't shut the fuck up when I try to go to bed. Suddenly all kinds of thoughts start racing round my head. Sometimes creative visions and sometimes just creeping dread. Or re-evaluations of the stupid things I've said. Lying in the darkness, in the silence on my own. trying hard to go to sleep and not look at my phone. Wanting to wake somebody but staring at the void instead. My brain won't shut the fuck up when I try to go to bed.
Which is why it takes me about an hour after I finish streaming to go to bed.
My brain won't shut the fuck up when I want to go to sleep.
Oh, what the hell? I'll show the video. It's gonna have to get cut anyway.
Each night upon me creep. Some random song from years ago gets stuck there on repeat. Or worries about the week ahead just make me want to weep. Regulating temperature by flipping over my pillow. Convinced I need the bathroom, but not able to go.
That's a prostate problem.
Trying everything from reading books to counting sheep. My brain won't shut the fuck up when I want to go to sleep. My brain won't shut the fuck up when I try to close my eyes. Concerns I'd long forgotten about come back and say, surprise! Smartphone internet seems like a curse now in disguise. And the bed suddenly feels too small for someone of my size. Jealous of my partner who drifts off so easily. Turning over in frustration to watch them sleeping peacefully. Only managing to doze just before it's time again to rise. My brain won't shut the fuck up when I try to close my eyes.
It wasn't too bad. Thank you for that, Stingy. It's always nice to end things on a bit of a higher note. Alright guys, well, there's no one really law related that's live at the moment to send you across to, so I'll probably send everyone across to... okay, so we've either got Chrissy Mayer talking about Trump, or we've got that Star Wars girl who apparently watched something to do with Star Wars. I'll flip a coin, but in the meantime, people, as always, please remember you're not a piece of shit. You have value and you do contribute to society, and thank you to everybody that has hit the like and subscribe button. And Boosh is creating his own new little game there. Meaty's live? Is he? Why did that not come up? Hang on. It's not coming up in my redirects. Don't know. Interesting. You're having too much fun, Boosh, is what I'm saying. But, yes, people. Also, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Thank you so much, peeps. And, yes, and keep an eye out. I will be continuing to cover this in bits and pieces just because there's a heck of a lot. So, but, as always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I'll catch you all laters. Cheers, peeps.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks, don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.